Hello, this is Vichual of the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. This is the Four Knights Italian. And the Four Knights Italian is known for the fairly balanced position between white and black. So white and black have fairly equal chances. Ends up in a fairly positional game. And so it was surprising to me as someone who plays with the black pieces, so I don't play the Four Knights with white, but face it against the black pieces, that there was one move that was categorically better than all the others. And that move is knight captures pawn on e4. And the interesting thing about this position is that according to the Lichess community database, black wins almost 60% of the time, and white wins under 40%. And the position here isn't a gambit, so it looks like you might lose that knight. If you look at the Stockfish evaluation, it is 0, 0, 0. Very interesting. Now, before we move on, let's have a quick look at the review. So how did we get here to this position? So quick look at the review. Now in this game, I played very accurately, as you can see, reasonably accurate game, did have some inaccuracies. And if you look at the position, equal at the beginning, and then I come up ahead. Let's now look at the analysis again. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. E4, and I always respond to E4 with E5. Now, the potential problem for me with the black pieces is traditionally what's happened is I get drawn into a Giuoco Piano, so the quiet game of the Italian, and I don't really like playing against that as black. And this was so against knight f3, the best response is knight c6, and one of the things is you can just get drawn into it because each of the moves that white makes, it almost looks like you have to sort of play the Giuoco Piano line. So the Italian, bishop c4. Now, historically, I would have played the bishop move, and then basically it's the beginning of Giuoco Piano. Now, what I've done more recently now, I've got a bit of a system, is to firstly play the two knights defense, and basically encouraging the opponent to potentially play a knight attack, or the beginning of the fried liver. And against that, I will play the Ponziani-Steinitz Gambit, which is also a knight to captures pawn on e4, so very similar theme. Now, where the opponent decides to play more conservatively, often that pulls them into the four knights, which is what we see here. And here I now have the opportunity to play that very good move, which is knight captures pawn, and the obvious move for white here, and if they don't play this move, I think they're actually worse off, is knight captures knight, and then black now has the opportunity to play pawn to d5, forking the bishop and knight. And if you have the opportunity to capture the bishop, that's probably what you should do. Now, here, very often the opponent will move one of their pieces, usually the bishop to potentially one of these two squares. And if that's the case, you've got a number of options. So I think the best move for white is to move the bishop here. And when that occurs, there's a number of options. You could cash out right away, just to take back the knight. It's a very equal game at this point, but at least you're not going to be drawn into the Giuoco Piano. However, an even potential better move is knight to b4, attacking the bishop again. Here, the opponent has an opportunity to move their knight out of the way, and you can then fork another knight and bishop a second time. And chess continues, and you've potentially got a bit of a control of the center. Now, how did this game progress? So, captures, and you can see 0, 0, 0. It's actually very balanced. Best move for white is to capture, and here the best move is to fork. My opponent decided to move their queen, which is automatically a mistake, and this is a thing for white. They're probably not expecting this move, and it's quite common that they will make the wrong move. You can see here, bishop back to d3 is in fact the best move. Now here, if you have the opportunity, capture the bishop, and that's what I did. So I captured the bishop. Queen captures back, which is fine. And from this position, chess continues. But I've navigated the opening with an advantage, and this will clearly not become a Giuoco Piano game, which was what I was aiming for in the first place. I decide to immediately attack that sort of a queen, sort of out in the middle of the board. Opponents are forced to move their queen back. So, they've lost a bit of tempo here. Now, pinning that knight to the queen. They immediately attack the bishop, but here I can attack the queen. So, a number of possible threats here. They move the queen out of the way, which is sensible. I take the knight, they capture back, and here, queen captures queen, and they're obviously going to have to do something here, and then that allows me to take back with also a potential fork, though that's not exactly a fork, given that that is, in fact, defended. So, -6. So very, very happy with that opening. Now potentially ready to long castles as well. So rook g1 is the best move. Here I decide to long castles. They attack the bishop, which makes sense. So bishop back to h5. And here, my goal really is just not to make a mistake, not to make a blunder. That sort of a rook move makes sense, defending that pawn, but that continues to be a potential weakness. Here, if I move that forward, there's a potential discovered attack. Knight e4. Here I had to think about what I wanted to do because the rook sort of attacks that pawn as well. And what I opted was I don't mind making that trade potentially. So I decided to block the rook. Potential sort of attack there as well. And here, pawn forward, going to force them to move their knight. And there we go. Captures. Happy with that transformation. What I want to do is to potentially do some balanced trades at this point. Pawn move, that's fine. Line up the two rooks into a battery. That's what I was aiming for there. King forward, so I thought that wasn't a terrible move. They're trying to get an extra defender, which I suppose makes sense. But now, of course, I've got to check, block, capture, given that they've now blocked the defense here. Rook captures, I thought that was fine. I decided to capture with bishop, so apparently capturing with rook was better. That's okay, I thought. The king moves out of the way. Now bishop to e4, opening up that rank for me to potentially take that pawn. Opponents will make some shuffling rook moves, which is probably not a good idea for them. I capture. They decide to move rook to e7. Again, so a bit of a shuffling move. Again, I didn't think that was the best move for them because they're in some potential trouble here. So rook to g8, and basically what I'm aiming for is that would be check. If the opponent doesn't do something, the king is forced to either of these two squares and then a ladder mate. Very, very good. So does my opponent see it? And the answer is no. So you can see mate in two. So check, king forced to move, and mate. Good game, GG. My big takeaway, knight captures pawn on e4 is a surprisingly strong move in the 4 knights Italian. Play it. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.